Not about, hey, this is actually 7,000 years and that's how it's going to be told from here on out, Oh, welcome back, guys, to another Bible series study. Just kind of going through the Bible a little bit. Part of a lifelong series, basically. And with this, we've basically unraveled some stuff, asked some questions, learned some truths, learned some knowledge that we can take in our everyday life and basically really help better us. If you're a Christian or non-Christian, it doesn't matter because you can get really good information from the Bible. If you are not a Christian, maybe this will give you the opportunity to learn and maybe answer some questions that you've been having. Of course, we can't do that all in one video. So, you guys are going to have to follow the series as we go through the whole Bible. Again, this is not, I'm not a pastor, I'm not, didn't go to school for any of this. This is just an everyday Joe looking, reading through the Bible, asking some questions, and hopefully finding some answers. Of course, in life, not all things can be answered, but let's get started. So, we left off last time. This is technically it's video number 4, so we're gonna, or number 3, but we're gonna call it number 4. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, and all over the creatures that move among the ground." Interesting. So God created us to be not just equal with the animals, but rule over all the animals. It's very interesting. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him male and female. He created them. It's very interesting as this goes against a lot of the New Age teaching, because so God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. Okay? So don't miss that point. God is saying, I created man, in my image. A lot of people like to twist it around and say, well, God created male and female in His image. So then there must be no gender, because if God created male and female in His image, then was God male and female? There's been a lot of twisting around. But if you guys notice, Genesis 27, or Genesis 1st, verse 27, or Genesis, depends on how you pronounce it. 1:27. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. So God is a He, because He created him. He created me. And then it goes on to say, male and female, He created them. He doesn't say, or the Bible doesn't say, so God created male and female in His own image. It says God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. And then it goes on to say, male and female, He created them. So, it's very clear on that whole aspect of, God created male in His image, and God didn't create female based off the image of God. He created female in the likeness, but not in the image of God. Let's move on to verse 28. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number." It's interesting. It says, "Be fruitful and increase in number," not numbers. Now, maybe that's just how it was worded or translated, but be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. Then God said, "I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it." Which is interesting. I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. So if He's giving all plants that bear seed and all trees that has fruit with seed in it, it's interesting. They will be yours for food. Well, That's interesting, because right there, every tree that has fruit with seed in it, and they will be yours for food. So right there in the beginning of the Bible, fruit is the biggest thing that is coming through that you're supposed to eat. Obviously, we know fruit as being healthy and keeping us in shape and a lot of things. Could you imagine going your whole life with just eating fruit? Just imagine how healthy you could be if all you ate was fruit. Now, we think of that now as, oh man, I've tried to go on a diet and just eat fruit. That doesn't work out too well, A lot of us, we go 3 hours, 4 hours without eating, and we're starving. We need some meat. We need some red meat. But it's interesting. It's interesting if someone would do a study, it would have to be a 100-year study, and it would have to be passed down because, the people doing the study would probably be in the 30s and 40s of doing it on a baby, but having a child be raised only on fruit, just all kinds of fruit that's out there, only on fruit, never touching meats, and just to see, that would be interesting. So, let's recap a bit. Every tree that has fruit with seed in it, they will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds of the air, and to all the creatures that move on the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. And it was so. So, not only are humans supposed to just eat fruit, so are all the animals out there. So it makes you think vultures. Vultures are scavengers. They love meat. Very interesting. God saw that all He had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the 6th day. Now this is something that kind of interests me a little bit, because it's marked by days in the Bible on how the earth was made. On the 7th day the Lord rested. So it makes me wonder, and I looked it up. 2 Peter 3 verse 8, "Do not forget this one thing, dear friends. With the Lord a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day to the Lord." We number these by days, and so it was back in the beginning. But what if I'm not trying to claim anything, and this is just, again, with all of this, it's, questioned and stuff, that probably would never be answered. But what if, on the 7th day, what if that's actually 1,000 years? Because, as Peter said, Do not forget this one thing, dear friends. With the Lord, a day, one day, is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like one day. So who's to say God didn't create the earth in 7,000 years? Because if one day is like 1,000 years to the Lord, I wonder how, it got numbered. Like back in the beginning, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Because, do you guys know who wrote the first book of the Bible? Well, stay tuned. So, something that's interesting and different types of people argue about is who exactly wrote the book of the Bible, Genesis, or Genesis. After doing some research, the whole theory is in the New Testament it suggests that Moses wrote the first book of the Bible. But some people argue that it's impossible for Moses to write all of it because there's some verses that Moses could not have known about because he would have been already passed away. There's verses that say, after Moses was dead, that there's no way, he could have known that. So the question of who really wrote it, Moses wrote some. People argue he wrote it all. Some people argue he wrote some of it, and the rest was filled in by, people after him. So you really can't determine exactly 100%. I know they say it's a very heated subject, that people argue strongly that it was all Moses, and then people argue strongly that it wasn't. That's not for me to decide, and that's something for you guys to think about. But with that being said, if Moses wrote this part of the Bible, God created, which I believe he did, 7 days. It's very interesting because how does Moses know exactly how many days? Did God tell him? Did God say in 7 days that I made the world? But, if God's days really are like 1,000 years to God, God could be saying, in 7 days, but to us it could actually be 7,000 years. That's just something to think about. Again, all of this is learning and exploring. It's not about, hey, this is actually 7,000 years and that's how it's going to be told from here on out. That's just something to think about. It's not, and it's not, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying that, 7,000 years. It's just interesting that Peter would say, to the Lord, 8 days like 1,000 years. And then it's just something to think about. That's all what the series is about. Reading the Bible, interpreting stuff in a little bit of my own way, and also presenting different questions to you guys. Again, some questions are going to have to be answered when you're long gone. So, with that being said, it's more fun of digging in and getting your brain to think a little bit. Alright, now, chapter 1, verse 2. Or chapter 2. Sorry guys, I'm a little tired. So, thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all of their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing, so on the seventh day he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. So this is something that's interesting as well. That could go with that theory of really it was 7,000 years. Again, this is all just hypothetical. It's not, it's just all talk. I'm just talking and giving things. But, God can do all things. So, in 7 days, or 6 days actually, would God really be that exhausted if he created the earth in 6 days? It's a lot to, to figure out and comprehend. But for God, 7,000 or 6,000 years could seem more, that's a long time of getting everything perfectly done. Just think about it, it's just something to think about. What do I honestly believe? I don't know. You know, I'm going by the Bible, so I believe, you know, God created the earth in 7 days, or 6 days, and He rested on the seventh. Could it really be 6,000 days and He rested on the 7,000th day? It very well could be. I'm sure a lot of you guys will say that's blasphemy or whatever, and I'm not, you know, like I said, this is all for fun, just to go over stuff. So I don't know. It's something to think about. It's very interesting, at least. So guys, this is going to end video number 4. And I hope this gets you thinking. I hope, you know, I know a lot of you guys are going to laugh at really all of this and not really pay too much attention if you're not into it. But I do think there's so much knowledge that can be learned for Christian and non-Christian alike. I think that, you know, it's fun. It's fun diving in. And, you know, this is all being read from someone who's an average Joe. I'm not educated. I'm not, you know, this is just reading from an average person, coming from an average perspective. You know, this is coming from, like, for example, it's all great, and I love watching certain pastors go over stuff because they know what they're talking about. You know, they went to school for it. They learned, you know, how to pronounce all the names and stuff. But that's great when you listen to it, but when you start reading stuff yourself, it can get a little confusing. I'm happy to say I've read through the whole Testament and most of all the New Testament. Some parts got kind of a bit confusing when reading the Old Testament. And that's kind of why I wanted to start doing this, just as your average person, you know, just as a discussion. There's really no reason behind it other than it's something I felt like I should do and I want to do. And, you know, I enjoy it. So the next number 5 is actually going to be, let's see, we got to rewrite this here. Number 5 is actually going to be Adam and Eve. So that's going to be a whole new series from Adam and Eve, and then we're going to stop at the fall of man. So I'm going to kind of go based off of, you know, the chapters it has here a little bit. Then, you know, we'll go over the fall of man, and then we'll go over Cain and Abel, and we'll go on, basically each series is going to be on the subjects that are highlighted in the Bible. So I could have done, you know, in the beginning as one whole video, except I turned that into, this would be the third actual video. The first video, number 1, is actually just an intro. So we could have made this whole thing into, you know, phase 1, but because it was so long, I decided to separate it. And one thing I have to say, to be a pastor, you gotta do a lot of research. I mean, I'm only doing probably 1% of the research that the pastors have to do, because they have to, as a pastor, they want to get everything 100% correct, you know, their wording, spelling, and everything. You know, me, I'm doing my research, I'm spending probably 5 hours on the research, and I'm basically, you know, I'm not trying to learn how to pronounce a word, I'm just trying to get some knowledge based off of what I'm talking about. Just like, if something triggers my curiosity, just like, you know, the 7 days, then I'm going to look it up. And that's why I looked it up and just thought it was interesting. You know, reading the Bible is coming from an average person's perspective. So it's just something fun. So I hope you guys like this video. I know there's some people that are going to dislike it, or there's 1 or 2 people out there that do follow my channel that I have. Well, one person I know watches my videos that I personally never met, but I do know of, that's within, you know, around the area, not my area, but I know who you are, that you have fought with trying to be a Christian, so I'm sure you'll dislike it, because the thing about Christianity, a lot of people, if they don't understand something, then it's not real. You know, I can only put it this way. How do you know the air is real? How do you know you're breathing in oxygen? And can you see air? Like right now, can you see, like if I go like this, can you see the air moving around? Can you see the breeze? You know, no, you can't. You just see the effects of it. For example, we have this piece of paper. As I go through, it's moving. Or, as you blow it, you see the effects of the air. But I'm here to tell you guys, you can see the effects of Jesus Christ, you can see the effects of the devil, you can see the effects of the Holy Spirit, the angels, the demons, all around us. And to say that God's not real, what if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? And someday you have to answer to that. A lot of things, guys. A lot of things to think about. And I hope you do think about them. I hope these videos will trigger some thought process to kick on, maybe kick some dust out of your head and think about stuff. Adam and Eve is going to be pretty interesting. That's one thing why I like going through this. I really do not want to skip anything or now I know some stuff is going to be boring as we get through it, and I'm going to have to skip some stuff because like generation after generation of this and this person, and I can tell you right now I can't pronounce probably half of the, probably 75% of the names in here, so but I am going to, things that I find interesting from the average person that I know a lot of pastors skim over, that I have always wondered, like there's some verses that as a pastor goes over, you know, he has it on the screen and he kind of says a little bit and then he jumps around. At least here, I want to go over everything and go over just different stuff and come up with just different ideas and theories. And it's not, these videos are not to say, you know, hey, you know, I'm going against this or I'm going against that. It's just to trigger our minds to think, you know, just like the 7 days. 7 days, 7,000 years, you know. It's interesting. It's just something to think about. So guys, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did not enjoy this video, I am sorry. I know I had a video, one of the last videos I did, I read off something that the earth was like 7 million years old, or I forget what I read off, and someone went and complained because they said, oh, well, the earth's only 1,000 years old, and this and that. And it's like, guys, everybody has to determine what they hear and what they read and what they see on their own terms. You know, I can say 7 years and someone could say, yeah, you know what, 7,000 does seem more logical. And if you're right or wrong, you have to interpret things in your own way, because you know, someone can tell you something, but who's to say they're right? You know, over the years, how many pastors have come through and have said things, you know, and then people have just, oh yeah, they're right, I believe them. No, I highly suggest you guys read the Bible and determine stuff for your own, you know. Oh, man, what is the passage? I think it's near the end of Revelation. I know we're kind of jumping here. There's a passage that says, I think it's at the end of Revelation. That says that each of us have to interpret, let's see. Okay, maybe it's not in Revelations. It's there's a verse, and we will eventually get to it. But anyway, take care, guys. Thank you for watching another video.